everybody and welcome back. It's Catherine from Jayne Catherine on Books, and I've got a couple of reviews here. So this time news and reviews is about two that I've read for my new project, which is I'll link it up here and down here if you haven't already seen it. I'm back. It's a new project. I've decided that I'm going to try and read all the 5-star books that Books Lala read in 2017, and just look to see how the ratings differ, or if they do differ. We're both different age ranges, read a different eclectic mix of books. So she originally gave me the idea with something that she did on her channel. So I've read two already off the list, and here's what I think of them. Both of them were 5-star reads for Books Lala. Oh, got things falling out. So Far from the Tree by Robin Benway. Now, started to hear more and more people discuss Far from the Tree or haul it, and I've seen a few different covers from this. The basic premise, it's a YA contemporary, and the basic premise is that we have 3 young adults who were adopted. We've got 2 girls, so we have, I'm just checking that I get my names right, Grace and Maya, and then we've got the boy Joaquin. And Grace and Maya were adopted as babies and are still with their adopted families, being brought up, you know, as their own children. But Joaquin, bless him, he has been passed from foster home to foster home and has quite a different story to tell, and a different life, really, a different upbringing from the 2 girls who were adopted as babies. Joaquin is of a mixed race. They've all got the same white mother. I'm not sure. I think he was his father was Mexican or somewhere from South America. I can't quite remember. And so this is about how people cope, I suppose, and how their life are affected by being adopted, being not with their birth mother for whatever reason. It's a very good book. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me. We look at Grayson and Maya. They come from sort of relatively well-off families in America, and Grace is an only child. They didn't have any more children, so we've got an only child experience. Maya, she was adopted because they couldn't have children, and then not very long after they managed to conceive and had a child of their own. So that was a different experience. And for Grace, you know, she had the experience of being quite lonely at times, not having any siblings. For Maya, she loved her half-sister very much. They got on very well. But there was always a problem there because she looked nothing like her parents and the birth sister, so that caused her some trauma. And then Joaquin, bless him, he's finally arrived at a home. It seems a very loving home. They're fostering him at the moment, but they want this to be an ongoing relationship. They want to eventually adopt him. So we've got his story. Now, none of the 3 know each other, and they all find out about each other when something significant has occurred in their lives. Joaquin obviously is going through quite a lot of turmoil because he doesn't know whether he wants to be adopted or not. He doesn't want to be let down. Maya, she's obviously got her own issues with having a half sister, and also she's in a budding relationship, female relationship, and all the teenage things that she's going through to do with her own sexuality. And then we have Grace, who has just had a baby. So I'm not saying much more than that, because I think that gives you a bit of an outline of the story. I don't want to give anything more than that away. So I loved all three characters. I loved how when they met, you know, how they did bond and how they looked out for each other. That was all the way through the book. I think that was a nice theme that ran through it. What annoyed me about the book was the parents. It's as if, you know, the three kids acted more grown up than the parents half the time. You know, one set very self-indulgent, only thinking about themselves. Marriage on the Rocks. Another set a bit more holier than thou, and well, you know, it too good to be true in how they were, a bit sickly sweet. There was one set that was okay, but because they were okay, we didn't hear too much about them, I don't think. So that irritated me. There were some very emotional times in this. I think it gave you a very good insight into what young adults feel like, you know, as they get into their 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old selves, how being adopted has had an impact on them. I thought that was all handled very nicely. I think there were some very emotional times in there. It did pull at the heartstrings. But for me, not quite. It wasn't a 5-star read. I didn't get to the end and think, wow, you know, that has touched me so much that wow. It was a very good book. I sometimes think that there are cultural differences in writing style. I think sometimes if we're talking about families in the States, some of the slight, although we all speak the same language, there are slight different nuances in vocabulary that we use both sides of the pond, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think sometimes it's probably the same for, you know, you guys, my lovely friends in the States, reading some of the books set in the UK, set in England. Some of the phraseology, some of the words are a bit lost because you don't call them the same things, and you know, and we don't call them the same things. So does that sort of make sense? I feel like I'm rabbiting here. It's not a major problem, but I think that we don't always understand some of the terminology that both sets of countries use. So that sort of floored me a little bit. Takes you a little bit longer sometimes to get into family dynamic situation. I thought the GLBTQ elements were handled nicely. It was a small subplot within this because the main plot was about adoption, but I did think that was nicely handled. So yeah, a solid 4-star read. Sorry, not quite the 5-star that Kaylee gave it, but yeah, this is what this project's all about, to compare and contrast. So that's Far From the Tree, Robin Benway. And then the other one that I've read, we've only got 2 here to review, is The Wife by Meg Wolitzer. I've not read anything by Meg Wolitzer before, and I love, these are the vintage, they've been reissued by Vintage, given a new set of covers. So yeah, there's several in this series that they've re-released and given a bit of a makeover, so I think that's quite nice. This is female fiction, and the premise of this is we have Joe Castleman and his wife Joan. Now Joe is a famous author. He's sort of struggled in the early days to be an author, and as time goes on he becomes more and more famous, more and more successful, shall we say, and it starts on an aeroplane, and the thoughts of really, it's narrated by Jayne, his wife, his long-suffering wife in lots of ways, and they're going over to Helsinki from the States because Joe has been nominated for a big literary prize over there, and so off they're going, and they're hoping that he's going to get it this time, shall we say. So this is really the thoughts about how she gave her career up to support him. We go back to their backstory where they first met, fell in love, both had hopes and dreams, and in lots of ways, you know, and this is true in many situations, many marriages, either side these days, it could be the man or the woman that because of children or because of circumstances, they give up on their own hopes and dreams to support their spouse. And so we're getting the musings of what she feels about all that, and she's decided she's going to leave him. And I gave it 3 stars, I'm afraid. I shouldn't say I'm afraid, should we, because we all have different views. Very well written in the writing style, is very easy to get into the writing style. She's quite humorous at times. I think she's an excellent writer. I found it quite boring, and I don't always like fast-paced books. I'm quite happy to have a slow burner and looking at some musings. I was bored. I just found it boring, and it was okay. There were parts I enjoyed, but in the overall scheme of things, I just feel that I've got far more exciting books to read. I will read something else by Meg Wolitzer. I'll try and get something from the library. I'm not buying any more, just to sit in case I don't end up liking her, because I thought her writing style was okay, but to me, you know, there was a bit of a plot there was a bit of an ending, but generally, you know, it's thoughts about women, how they're treated. I mean, it says here, a triumph of tone and observation. The wife is a blithe, brilliant take on sexual politics. I must have missed it then. So, yeah, there we go. The Wife by Meg Wolitzer. And I gave it 3 stars. Okay, so they're the first 2 I've read for my project. Reading the 5 stars of Books Lala for 2017. So catch up with you next time. There's not really that much news to impart this week, so yeah, we'll leave it there. Bye for now.